Hey, what's up everyone? I'm Reactor, and at the end of this video, I'm going to be explaining the contest I'm having, so watch to the end for instructions on how to win. Today, we have a question from Caleb Clark, who asked, "Hey Reactor, can you make a tutorial on return fraud?" Of course I can't do that, Caleb. That would be illegal. But I can tell you the top 10 types of return fraud to be aware of. Number 1. Price switching. This is when someone returns an item for more than it's worth, by making it appear to be a more expensive item with the use of stickers. It's usually done by placing a sticker of a different product's barcode over the barcode of a cheaper item. This one is probably difficult for them to do because most people don't have access to barcode stickers. Number 2. Returning stolen merchandise. This is when someone steals something from a store and then returns it for cash. An example would be stealing batteries and then coming back later with the claim of losing their receipt. They're able to do this because some stores allow them to return low-cost items without a receipt. And as far as I know, it's usually refunded as a store credit. Number 3. Receipt fraud. This is when somebody uses a receipt, whether real or fake, to return items to a store for cash. An example would be when someone buys a toaster, brings it home, and then grabs another toaster from the shelf and returns it with the receipt they were given earlier. Criminals benefit from this by using it as a sketchy loophole for shoplifting. This is really no different than shoplifting. Another example would be buying a receipt printer and creating fake receipts to help them return stuff for any price they choose. Or maybe finding a receipt in the parking lot trash and then stealing all of the items on it and returning them. Number 4. Wardrobing or renting. This is when people go to the store and buy something with the intention of eventually returning it after its use. Some examples would be buying a winter coat in December and then returning it in February, buying a bunch of power tools for that home project of theirs and then returning them as soon as they're finished, or eating half of their meal at McDonald's and then returning the other half for a full refund. I've even heard of people buying $200 TVs and then on their next payday returning it and buying a more expensive TV. They then continue this process of upgrades until they have a $2,000 TV. They benefit from this the most by always being able to return the TV as a makeshift savings account when they're strapped for cash. It also allows them to never end up with an outdated TV. This type of return fraud can be difficult for stores to catch because it can only be considered a crime if the person admits to purchasing it with the intentions to eventually return it. If they were to lie and claim they just can't find a TV that they like, it pretty much clears them of any crime. Number 5. Price arbitrage. This is when they buy two similar looking products and return the cheaper product in place of the expensive one. An example would be buying the cheapest vacuum along with the most expensive one and then returning the cheaper one in the box of the expensive one. Bad guys use this to get the best versions of stuff at a much lower price. Number 6. Switch fraud. This is when people buy a new product and then return an identical broken product that they already have. An example of this would be if they found a broken TV in Walmart's trash and then bought a brand new identical one and returned the broken one in its place. They do this for the obvious benefit of getting a brand new TV for free. This is one of the reasons that companies put serial numbers on the back of TVs, but the criminals get around this by simply unscrewing and swapping the backs of the TVs. Number 7. Bricking. This is when people buy a product and then strip its parts off of it before returning it for a full refund. An example would be buying a computer and then taking most of the RAM out of it or swapping a crappier hard drive into it before returning it. I imagine they could build an entire computer one part at a time if they did this enough times. Number 8. Cross-retailer returns. This simply means they bought a product at one store and then returned it to a completely different store. An example would be buying shoes on sale at one store and then returning them to another store that doesn't have the same sale going on. They do this because it's a way for them to gain money during the return. Number 9. Employee fraud. This is when they convince a store's employee to help them commit any of the previous return frauds. An example would be if they had a friend working at the store who helped them bypass the need for a receipt when they were making the return. And finally, number 10. Claude Allan. This guy was an assistant to President George W. Bush until he resigned after being charged with return fraud. He was arrested after he admitted to a Target loss prevention agent that he had been making fraudulent returns. Although he wasn't actually charged until months later after an investigation used security footage and his credit card history over the past year to prove he had been fraudulently returning items totaling over $5,000. And there it is. These are the top 10 most common ways that criminals are exploiting the return policies of stores. So if you own a store like Walmart or Target, these are the things you need to keep an eye out for. And that's it for this episode of Ask Reactor. If you have anything you'd like me to explain in the next episode of Ask Reactor, just ask it in the comments. As for the contest I mentioned earlier, here's how to win. Whoever has the comment on this video with the least amount of likes will be announced as the winner, so best of luck. Also, don't forget to follow me on my other social media and check out these other videos that I made. Thanks for watching.